Hello, my name is Diana, and my partner here is Roy Rogers. Now, it may not look to you like Roy and I have much in common, but we do. In fact, not only do I have something in common with Roy Rogers, I've got something in common with Dolly Parton, Charlie Pride, Orville Redenbacher, and 7 million other youth worldwide. But what, you ask, is this something? Well, that something is the 4-H program, an American innovation. But wait a second. Maybe you've never heard about our 4-H program. Or maybe you have heard about us, but you don't really know what we're all about. Well, 4-H is all about learning by doing, and that is our creed, learn by doing. 4-H is a program for boys and girls from 3rd through 12th grade in urban, suburban, and rural areas. First, an adult leader brings together youth who have similar interests. Second, they choose one or more projects. Projects can be chosen from among 100 different project areas offered. Or if you don't find one you like, you can create your own. Third, they enroll as a club. And fourth, they meet together to learn and have fun. Clubs can explore 4-H events, activities, and trips. In 4-H, there's something happening all year long. So where did 4-H come from? How did it get here? When did it start? Well, 4-H didn't come from any one specific place or at any one specific time. It simply grew from the desire of people to teach youth how to live and change their world. And that's exactly what they've been doing for the past 100 years. But to learn a little bit more about 4-H and where it came from, why don't you step back with me to the year 1907. Now, even though 4-H type work has been going on since 1902, or possibly even earlier, 1907 marks the beginning of 4-H type work under the guidance of the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA. Now, at that time, the early programs weren't called 4-H. They were simply boys and girls clubs, and they were usually held as separate clubs, one for the boys and the other for the girls. The yearly schedule of these early clubs might include testing garden soil, planting a garden, growing corn for the boys, planting and canning tomatoes for the girls, and of course club meetings and trips to members' gardens and exhibits. The USDA soon found that many farmers were very reluctant to try new methods of farming. They also learned that one of the best ways to teach these new methods was to teach them to the youth, who would in many cases teach their parents, and then also take those new ideas when they grew up and started farms of their own. And so, in the year 1914, the United States Department of Agriculture created the Cooperative Extension Service to help take these new ideas to both youth and adults all across the country. Now, the word extension means to stretch out, and when you stretch out, you reach others. And that's exactly what they did, because now the early 4-H program had the professional staff and support that it needed to move into the future. And that's a very good thing, because in the year 1917, America would enter World War I, and 4-Hers, like everyone else, were called upon to help their country in its time of need. 4-Hers pitched in by growing corn and canning tomatoes for the war effort, and by helping to keep a patriotic spirit. These early clubs helped youth to make the best better. And today, that's our 4-H motto, to make the best better. In 1924, they officially became the 4-H Clubs of America. And in case you've been wondering, those 4-H's stand for head, heart, hands, and health. And in 1927, they adopted this pledge. In support of the 4-H Club motto, which is to make the best better, I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living, for my club, my community, my country, and my world. That pledge was soon to be tested, because in the year 1941, America would enter World War II, and 4-Hers were again called upon to help their country. But this time they were called upon specifically by the President. In 1942, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared April 5th through 11th National Mobilization Week for Farm Youth, and he said, "Let your heads, your hearts, your hands, and your health be truly dedicated to your country, which needs them now as never before." The 4-H theme was Feed and Clothe a Fighter and Myself, and that's exactly what they did. Again, 4-Hers raised crops for the war effort, and they also participated in civilian defense, bond campaigns, and salvage programs. Now, these were all beneficial programs, and they aided the nation. But one of the most beneficial programs of the time was the Victory Garden program, in which people in towns and cities would raise their own vegetables in victory gardens so that commercially raised crops could be used for the war effort. In fact, the Victory Garden program was so successful that in 1942 and 43, victory gardeners produced 40% of the nation's vegetables for fresh consumption. That's 2 out of every 5 vegetables raised in America for fresh consumption in these years were grown by people in towns and cities. So you can see that it would be important for everyone, and not just farm kids, to know good agricultural techniques, and extension agents, along with the help of 4-H members, were the people bringing those techniques to America's towns and cities. And along with them, they brought the 4-H program. It was during this time of the war, and also in the 1950s and 60s after the war, that there became a rise in urban 4-Hers. There were more and more 4-Hers joining the program who lived in towns and cities, and so the program changed and adapted to fit its new members. Today, 57% of 4-Hers in America live in towns and cities, not in a country like most people think. 4-H has gone from a couple states to all the states in the United States of America, and it's in 80 different countries. You can travel to any corner of the globe and still see that familiar clover symbol. So, with all this changing and growing going on, you might want to know, what does 4-H look like today? Well, to help answer that question, I'd like to start out with a little bit of myth busting. The number one myth about the 4-H program is there's only one thing you can do in 4-H, and that's raise and show farm animals. Well, that's one myth that definitely needs to be done away with, because there's nothing further from the truth. As I mentioned earlier, there are over 100 different projects in the 4-H program. We've got everything from automotive to photography to computer and everything in between. There really is something for everybody. But maybe you're thinking, okay, I like some of this agricultural stuff, but I live in the city. There's no way Dad's going to let me keep a cow in our garage. Well, that may be true, but you can find a place like a club leader's home, camp, or fairgrounds where you can keep that animal without moving to the country for it. But perhaps you have a very specific interest. Maybe you're interested in horsemanship. Well, you can find a club that focuses on that project. Or maybe you're interested in shooting and fishing sports. You can find clubs who focus on those projects as well. There are lots of clubs around, and there's probably one near you. There are many valuable things that you'll find in the 4-H program. But one of the most valuable will be the parents, leaders, and extension agents who will help guide you and help make your personal best better. I know that's been true for me. Okay, so I've been talking this whole time, but you're still not convinced. Well, maybe you'd like to hear a little of my story. 4-H has helped me to gain confidence in speaking and interacting with others, both as a leader and a follower. I've enjoyed many years of projects, and I've been able to compete in a few competitions over the years. But if you want to know what I enjoyed most, I'd like to tell you about the 4-H Youth Interstate Exchange. The Interstate Exchange is a fabulous program in which 4-Hers from one state are hosted by 4-Hers from another. In my particular case, 10 4-Hers from Smith County, Texas, were hosted by 10 4-Hers from Columbia County, New York. We toured New York, we learned about its people, its history, and its culture. And the following year, they came down here and we had a blast touring Texas. 4-H has taken me from my backyard, where I raise animals and grow vegetables, to the top of the Empire State Building. It's taken me hiking in the Catskill Mountains, on a tour of Albany in a bus that floated right down the Hudson River. And I toured the Alamo with friends that live over 1,000 miles away. Now that's life-changing. Oh, and in case you were wondering, there's no cost to becoming a 4-H member. Although some programs, like raising and showing a beef steer, may require some initial investment, others, like the exchange, require very little. In fact, they're mostly funded by work the youth do themselves in fundraising. So, we've asked and answered a lot of questions today, but the one that remains is, why? Why should you join 4-H? I think by now you could answer it yourself. 4-H has helped to shape the face of our great nation, and 4-Hers have had a great time doing it. As a 4-H member, you're part of a team, and that team is something that will definitely change your life. I know it has mine. But if you're going to be part of this program, you might want to know where it's going and what it will look like in the future. 4-H is an American innovation, and it's the world's largest youth organization. For many years to come, it will continue to teach youth in America and all over the world many things about life and help to prepare them for an exciting and successful future. I know that's true. In fact, I know all these things are true because Roy Rogers and I have something in common. We're 4-Hers. We think that our nation is the best in the world, and we're out to make the best better. So you see, the only question is, will you come with us? How will you answer it?